The first story, the god Lucifer and the devil's story. Once upon a time, there was a higher power named Alpha and Omega. He had his kingdom and beings called angels that helped as elves do with Santa Claus. Anyway, God had a favorite angel in his kingdom he named Lucifer, and he was the morning star in God's kingdom. One day, the higher power took notice of Lucifer's work and realized how much he loved him. He then decided he was going to create a world where Lucifer will be a god there. Once created, Lucifer will be ruler of these beings called human. Let's just take a pause for a minute. Before we go further, I just want to explain about what is said about God giving authority to Lucifer. As we all know that Lucifer was God's favorite angel. This is biblically, scientifically proven that Lucifer was God's favorite angel, and then that Lucifer ended up jealous because of something, and he wanted to end up being like God. Biblical scientists prove that even the angels were jealous of God's plan when he created the human beings, the plan about creating the human being. So my POV comes in with biblical scientific uh, research, if you would. I put everything together, and it's obvious that God had a plan throughout the love of Lucifer to create humans, or these beings called human, to worship Lucifer on a planet called Earth. And Earth was going to be Lucifer's kingdom. The situation is that jealousy was found in heaven. So then I put my POV in there because when you put everything together, it makes sense that God had a plan, jealousy was found, and things of that nature. With this, I want to read something within research that clearly explains that God even gave authority to Lucifer. Check it out. In the beginning, God gave authority over all creations to humans when he said, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. This is Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. The same humans turned over that authority to Satan when they succumbed to his temptation and obeyed the devil instead of God in Genesis chapter 3. In the New Testament, written after Jesus' death and resurrection, the Bible refers to Satan in terms that are surprisingly authoritative. Jesus himself calls Satan the ruler of this world in John 16:11. According to Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, people who fail to trust in and follow Jesus Christ walk according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience. In First Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4, the Bible refers to Satan as the god of this age. Even Michael, the archangel's authority does not surpass that of Satan. Jude notes in Jude chapter 1, verse 9, that even Michael the archangel, in contending with the devil when he disputed about the body of Moses, dared not bring against him a reviling accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke you. Satan has clearly been given a measure of authority on this earth. The world system as we know it runs according to his design. Against the Ephesians chapter 2, verse 2, Therefore, the wisdom believers receive from God looks like foolishness to the world because it is so fundamentally different from the world's wisdom. First Corinthians chapter 1, verses 21 through 25. Satan's rule over the world system is why the Bible asks, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. This is James chapter 4, verse 4. And First John chapter 2, verse 15 commands, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him, precisely because the enemy of God controls the world. Disturbing as Satan's authority may be, it is not absolute any more than the perceived authority of an eighth grader in middle school. In fact, it is severely limited. Recall how Satan's every attack on Job was reviewed in God in advance and specifically limited by God. Moreover, in Revelations chapter 20, verses 1 through 3, Satan is thrown into a pit without mention of a protest or fight. It happens without any significant resistance. For now, believers find themselves in the middle of a system over which they have no direct control whatsoever. That system regards everything we know in to be right and good as nothing but foolishness. One of the angels in Alpha and Omega's kingdom overheard the plan to create the humans and how Lucifer was going to be ruler. The angel told Lucifer Alpha and Omega's plan, but that he was going to create other beings that were in Alpha and Omega's image, and that they were going to be better than him and take Lucifer's position in the name of favoritism. Once more, let's take a pause. I just want to identify the difference between sin being open on earth and formed on earth. There's no way that we can say that sin was formed on earth because sin actually was opened on earth. In fact, sin was even found in heaven and then it was deleted, right? Because have you ever noticed that Michael and the archangels was armed with sword and armor? Like what was they protecting themselves from, right? There obviously was more than what we know, for sin was found in heaven. This gives us the fact that sin was opened on earth because everything in the Bible that tells us about sin tells us how to separate from sin when it's identified. Therefore, sin is repeated on earth like jealousy and lies. Lucifer was astounded and jealousy was created in him. He charged at God after he gathered 1/3 of angels that agreed with him that he should be God and rather have his own. The Alpha and Omega is confused and amazed and wondered what was going on. I heard you guys were creating some beings to be better than me. I'm not with this plan, and I want my own and to be my own God and ruler over angels, said Lucifer. The Alpha and Omega said, you can't be a God in my kingdom, for I'm the one that created you. If you want to be your own God, that means I have to take away everything I gave you, and you have to create it yourself. Lucifer said, whatever then, and let it be. The Alpha and Omega had a great argument and rather conflict. The Alpha then challenged Lucifer and said, if you bring light upon yourself and your followers in darkness, I will give power to you to be a god. Lucifer accepted the challenge and was cast out of heaven, stripped from heaven, honor, and in terms of violation into the world full of darkness. The only light there is fire and brimstone. Lucifer's name was taken away, then taught of the devil, for he was against Alpha and Omega's plan. For so many years without God's love and the frustrations that were built upon him, for he couldn't bring light in darkness, he then became the prince of darkness, for Alpha and Omega was king of darkness and light at that time. In this story identify who God is and his love for Lucifer. It also identifies that sin was not created on earth, but opened. With this being said, I want you to realize that what is written in the Bible is what God only wants us to know. That being humble is a must, for there is much more than what we know. For example, have you noticed that the Bible goes about Michael being the strongest and having an army in God's kingdom? What are they protecting themselves from? Obviously, the forces of evil and sin. Lucifer had a disagreement, but it also obvious they didn't go to war and have a great fight. It does prove there was a rather conflict and or debation, but not a fight with his favorite, right? God would have killed him for in terms of violation or sin, right? This proves God understanding and fairness, that there is a misunderstanding. He gave chance and challenged his faith to understand what Lucifer was talking about. To say God had an actual fight with his favorite is rather blasphemy, for this doesn't make up God's character as an influencer on forgiveness and love. Therefore, the info we have as humans, therefore the info we Second story, God, the devil, and the humans. Time went by, and the devil's heart was hardened towards his creator. All of a sudden, a great light was shining, and our darkness was gone. This is when the Alpha and Omega started to create the earth, for he already knew he won. The devil witnessed the creation on earth and was confused. Alpha and Omega created the humans, and Lucifer witnessed the Alpha and Omega tell the humans not to eat of the tree of knowledge. This is when the devil came up with the plan to have Alpha and Omega's creation to go against him. Once he was able to lure in Eve and have her eat from his hand, Eve and Adam became parts with the devil, for sin is now in the DNA. The importance of, well, let's take a pause one more. I just want to explain a little something so we have a better understanding about how Adam and Eve rather found out that they were naked and just kind of explain that situation. Um, so for an example, if I was a dirty person, you see what I'm saying? And if I give you an apple and my hands are dirty, but you put my apple into your mouth, does, doesn't that make you dirty or a part of dirt, right? Therefore, Adam and Eve, when they took the apple, they became parts with the devil, and it's in their DNA. So then that's when the humans became parts with the devil. When they ate that apple, they started to see everything that the devil was seeing on earth. And it wasn't as beautiful as they thought. The devil corrupted their mind and had them go against God, had them disobey God, in fact. The humans are not totally in God's um, hate, if you would, because the humans were